Welcome to Stampscapes Live, if anyone's on. Haven't been on in a little while. Needed to do a scene and needed to try out one of the large ArtFoamies stamps with one of my new little figures that was just released fairly recently. And let's give it a go here. I've been working on a lot of designs, so I don't know. Just a different part of my brain's kind of on, I don't know, configured. So let's see what I can do from a creative standpoint. I'm usually using, I don't know, I see stamp designing as relatively right brain because you're analyzing every part of the design, and usage is more of like a, I don't know, free-flowing creative type of process. So let's see what we can do here in the midst of my creating, I don't know, whatever period here. All right, so I've been using some of these little figures from the new set recently, and that's featuring a lot of these little kind of, I don't know, Renaissance, reclining, kind of dreamy looking figures, 19th century engravings, and I want to use them with some of the ArtFoamies stamps to give the scene some different scale, and it'll be the first time I've used these ArtFoamies with some of the new kind of larger pieces that are kind of more in scale with the figures as kind of an average size type of tree or form. Okay, usually when we're doing things, we're adding in like some smaller little figures and things like that. You know, little animals and things like that. But these new figures, you know, they're relatively large in relation to those. Hello, everyone. Hello, Phyllis, Linda, CM Hawkins. Good to see ya. So let's see how this goes. Okay, so I'm getting a little wiser these days in terms of my dimensions, so that I can have something to mount my paper on rather than just going full 8.5 by 11. So 7.5 by 10 inch. Okay, so I can do like a double mounting of this form. And let's see how it goes here, okay? I was thinking about a fairly simple composition, as I might want to add in a quote stamp with this one too. Between every two pines is a doorway to a new world by John Muir. And let's see if, I don't know, let's see if I can leave some space for that quote in this one. Okay. All right, so we're going to go fairly large with this one, like I said. And see, this little figure is going to be in here. And we'll go with another pine, a little bit staggered. I can go lower or higher. Of course, this figure will be this way. So I can go a little bit lower, or I can go a lot higher like this and have a little bit of foreground. Let's see, down here. So, I think I'm going to go a little bit lower this way. So we almost use the full length of this piece. Well, we will be using the full length. Hello, Laura. All right, so I hope everyone's had a nice, pleasant week. Okay, let's see. Let's get this lined up here. I'm trying to go as low as I can just to stagger these two trunks a little bit. It won't be by a huge amount, but something like this here. Okay. I don't know, it's off like a 1/4 inch or something like that. If it was a little bit higher, that would have been better. It'll, you know, it would change the scale somewhat. Okay, now the quote is every 2 pines, so I don't think if I'm going to use that quote stamp, I don't think I want to add 3 pines into this, but you can do other background types of imagery in there if we want to, or just make it a really light, you know, impression like back here, and I don't think that would be bad. But here's the thing I wanted to do. I was thinking about adding in. I usually have these light beams coming in from above, but I was thinking about having this pine tree type of thing. And this figure is all of these figures are really I don't know, they're very, I don't know, mystical, whimsical, things like that. So I was thinking about putting the light or some beams coming outward, but from a really low vantage point, like a low horizon line back here. I don't know what it would represent. It could just be something like staging or something like that in a production, or it could be a sunset or something like that, or sunrise. I don't know. I don't think it really matters, but I think it might be kind of interesting. So that being said, as I think about that, maybe I will put this tree back there, but maybe I'll really blot off some of the bottom portion so it'll go from light to dark up here. So we'll ink this up and then we'll really take off a lot of ink right here where the figure is going to go. And then we'll have this lighting coming out like that. I need something fairly, it doesn't have to be real dark, but something reasonably shaded so that these light beams will show up. We need some, a little bit of contrast at least. So let's try that out. And if it doesn't come out, then I'm, that's not too good because I didn't cut 2 pieces of paper. I don't feel like going out, walking into the other room too and doing that. Cutting another one out. Not after not being on for a long time and it's like, oh, hold on, I'll be right back. Okay, so blotting this off from the bottom up like that, so it should be going from dry. And I already did one impression, so it's already really dry. So it's drier down here and transitioning up here with more ink, okay? So let's see, let's just do a quick mask here. Like that, and position our figure wherever she's going to go. And then we'll go like that, I think. Kind of under mask a little bit with your tree so that, it'll get as close to that transition zone as much as possible. Some of that tree stamped out in there, which is no big deal, but that's better than having like a gap of like a 1/4 inch in between your objects like that. So don't be worried about overlapping that into this one because these are going to be colored in anyway, okay? So when I mention undermasking, leave it about maybe an 1/8 of an inch or 1/4 inch. These ArtFoamies, you don't have to leave too much space because they contour in there. But if you're doing this with rubber stamps, which are firmer, give it a little bit more space when you're overlapping something like that and masking it out. Okay. Yeah, I've been wanting to get on here. Sometimes when I'm working on these new designs, it's like, just time just keeps, like dissolves away and it goes so fast. And then I've had a little bit of time, so it's like, okay, I just want to get to this scene really fast because I want to see what these compositions look like with these new figures. And yeah, it's like, I don't know, a lot of times it's like at midnight, although I have done live streams, at, kind of really odd hours. For me, at least, I don't know, it might be like noon across the world or something like that for some of the viewers of the channel. Okay, so there's our composition right there. Now see right here, that's so light, I can stamp my figure right over the top of that in black ink. I don't think that's going to be a problem. It's a little bit dark right there, but, overall, that's not too bad. And I can put this figure right in here. A little bit of haze down there, light coming through, or down kind of like in here. So that'll be my source of light right in there. And I think that should be reasonably dramatic. I'm not sure. So let's see here. Hello, Cecile. Good to see you. Vintage Scrap Girl, good to see you. Thanks for logging on, checking it out. I was hoping to see everyone. I've missed the lives. All right, let's see. Let's add down here some, let's make this one pretty colorful, okay? I don't like it really colorful, like super hot, but I'm thinking about some green grass or something like that, spring-like, or something of that nature. Let's see if I do that. Where am I going? Let's see if that quote stamp. I don't know. The quote stamp might just have to go on the other side of the card or something like that. But we'll see how it goes. I was thinking about doing it in reverse out, light text on a darker background, but I don't know. We'll figure it out. Okay, so I was talking about going with some lighter tones, and I'm going to add my grass. That comes into play with this grass here. If I stamp it out in just green, like a darker green, I do have like a bottle green, I think, if that pad is still okay. That's probably dark enough to take all the different values of green that I'm going to be using on here, but I feel that brown is going to be better for that. Okay, so not quite black, but brown like that should hold up against these darker tones. Okay, now you don't have to do the full, you know, version of it, the full value of it, but I would go with something reasonably dark. And when I do green grass too, I always have browns in it anyway, okay? Tans, kind of medium and darker brown. Otherwise, it tends to look a little bit too hot for me. Like not quite neon green or something like that. Like especially if I use something like this. But it's just way too hot. It needs to look a little bit more earthy. Unless I'm going for, you know, some kind of specialized looking green, you know. I'm doing an Easter card and I want it to look really, you know, friendly and celebratory and whatever. Then I might do something really hot. But I don't know, it's just more of a personal preference than anything. Okay, so we have that down there. And that should stand up against all these different tones right here. I was telling people in classes and whatnot that, you know, if you're going to do something in a certain type of color scheme, sunsets or something like that, then, you know, choosing your colors doesn't have to be a big mystery. You just lay your colors out in front of you of whatever media you're going to be working in, colored pencils, coloring, or whatever. And you just line them up, and then if you're doing some sort of range of tones, then just put them in front of your eye and see if they blend and harmonize to your eye just like that. It's really easy if you're going monochromatic because it's just straight values that you're lining up from dark to light within a given hue, okay? Now, I mean, now, like I said, I do use browns in there, so, you know, with something like this, I might just add on these, then I'll add in a brown, like that right over the top of it to make it more earthy looking. You don't necessarily have to figure out, okay, let's see, where do those browns kind of incorporate in there in terms of the values of it. So this is just a general way to, you know, grab your colors. And that also, when you're thinking about colors in terms of a value scheme like that, it keeps us from, it expands kind of the notion of kind of single color applications, which people can do, but it's not going to come out as rich as if you utilize various values in there. So in other words, what I'm getting at is like a newbie to, I don't know, scenes or just coloring in general. They might have grass or something like that, but they'll look through their pads and they'll say, okay, let me see, which one of these is grass green? Okay, and which one of these is sky blue, as opposed to using, you know, multiple, you know, values of it. And you can just mix and match too. Okay, so here's a memento, bamboo leaves, and let's say you just have 3 colors of green or something like that. Okay, so this bamboo leaves would probably go something like that in terms of light, medium, dark. But if you have more tones, might as well try them out, or you don't have to always use all of them that you have. Like mine would look something like this in terms of my value scheme, and I have some other, distress inks too. One green, I think, that I can incorporate in here. But anyway, that's a little background on color. These two almost look the same, but I guarantee you they're not, in terms of the intensity of these ones. Okay, so anyway, my trees, let's just make them brown. Okay, so it'll be something like this. Let's see. Glad you like those figures, Cecile. Vintage Scrap Girl. I agree. They're evocative, in terms of like a nice dreamy type of scenario, aren't they? That's why I love utilizing them. I think they're I don't know, they evoke a certain mood or something like that. And I really love kind of depicting kind of emotion in scenes. So they give me like a big head start, and they always have. That's why I have, like, in my private collection, I have so many of the those old engravings, and I've just come to realize the reason why there's a lot of those types of illustrations as they came about during those what was it? It's not the Renaissance, but I can't think of that movement. But kind of late 1800s type of period, when you had a lot of illustrations like that in books and whatnot. All right, so I'm looking for my cloud stamp. I just thought I just had that. Here's the problem of not going on live in a while. I can't find my stuff that I usually have right next to me, so... hello, Jeannie, Sandy, hello. Okay, let's just use here, I'll use my unmounted version of this. Okay, so I need to put a little something up here. I don't have to, but I think it'll be good. Okay. And again, the more you fill in with kind of textural types of forms, grassy areas, sky areas, whatever, overhanging leaves and whatnot, the less kind of coloring that we have to do to fill in those areas with something. Okay, now inevitably I do fill in with both color and objects and textures and whatnot, but it's just so much faster with filling up the scene. And I didn't always think that way. I just I don't know, something was like kind of reinforced when we were doing those monster maps. If people don't know what I'm talking about, there were these Halloween types of scenes, large format pieces that look like, they're supposed to represent something like an illustration of like an amusement park map, one of those kind of 3-dimensional types of things that's, not really in scale or anything like that, but anyways, we used a lot of different, I say we because a couple other people did those maps, and we just really packed it full of information and objects and creatures and things like that. And I don't know, it was relatively fast to finish up because we had just so much stuff going on in the scenes. It was crammed full of stuff, and way more stuff than I would typically use over the years in scenes. But I don't know, I kind of learned something from that process, and that was just that, we can really expedite the process by kind of cluttering our scenes. Clutter is good, I guess, for some scenarios. Let's see, hello, did I say hello to Debbie? Oh, hey, well, glad to have you, Debbie. Thanks for joining in here. All right, so we have our scenario here. For those that haven't seen this before, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be adding coloring in here, but at the same time that we're coloring, we're going to be lighting the scene too. And lighting the scene is nothing more than just the retention of light on the page. Retention of the lighter areas, white of the paper in some scenarios. It doesn't have to be white, but just retaining some areas that are just lighter. So in other words, don't color everything out, you know. If you want to have some light in this grassy area, then we're going to add in some tones to make it look like grass, but we're not going to make it so dark with our, especially our medium and darker tones, in the areas that we want to remain illuminated or to give the illusion of illumination. So I want some of those clouds to look like they're nice and billowy and white. So when I add, in this case, maybe some blue tones up here, I'm not going to color all those out. If I have some light that's streaming in like this onto these trees, maybe the left side of these trees will be left side illuminated, so darkened on the right side of it. And this tree right here, which is going to be to the left of the lighting, will be right side illuminated. So a little bit of a darker edge on the opposing sides of our, I don't know, whatever, cast light, represented, you know, light. Okay, so let's make this really fast. Let's just use a re-inker. This is a kind of a tan color, so it's called Peach Bellini, so I guess it's peachy colored. It's one of those old re-inker inks from the Ranger line of seashells, later called Adirondack Lights. Now discontinued, but if you're doing something like this, like your distress inks, antique linen, old paper, or something like that would be a fantastic choice. All right, and this goes really fast and easy. This is just a paper towel that I'm using. Okay. Coloring in like so. Glossy cardstock, by the way, if I didn't mention that. Okay, so see this tree is kind of illuminated on the right side. These trees are going to be a little bit left side illuminated. So you go like this. I just stamped out and re-inked my black pad here, so it's picking up a little bit of that, or a lot of that black ink on there. No big deal. We're just going to incorporate that in with the, not only the color scheme, but the lighting scheme, okay? So don't worry about that. Or you can worry about it if you want to, but it's not going to matter, so it'd be wasted emotion. Okay, so see that right there? So see, lighting is just, like I said, it's kind of a weird concept to some people who, I know how it goes, you know, they're used to saying, okay, this is grass down here, so they're filling in that entire area with grass, you know, color or something like that, but it's just about the retention of those areas there. So really, in application, it's doing less work, okay? It's less work to color and light at the same time because you're just not utilizing a full application of whatever ink you're using. You're always kind of using kind of, I don't know, partials and various degrees of them. So my lightest colors, I'm going to get a pretty decent amount of coverage with them. And then as I get darker and darker, this tree is going to transition over here darker, which means I use less of the darker colors on here, okay? Okay, so, but this first color, what I always do in my classes is I have people start off with a pretty good amount of this base coat right here because it's going to make blending the incrementally darker colors much easier to apply in a real graceful manner, because what happens is the pulp of the paper and the surface starts getting a little bit moistened, so that when you go in with your darker colors, you can go in there and it just blends right up, you know, very easily, as opposed to soaking into the paper really fast and then it's like, oh my god, I got a dark brown, you know, spot there that, you know, won't come out, okay? So it's like you kind of lubricate, you know, your page. And this is really dry right now because it's the, you know, bare paper that I'm coloring right now. So let's go for a little bit more. So this is all done. That's as much as I need to color with that color, but I just want to get it soaked a little bit more. So that's the secret right there, is just kind of lubricate the page a little. It's getting a little bit darker with this tone here, but, or I don't know, with a little bit more ink. Okay, but just, keep in mind as you move through your additional colors that you add in with that you kind of keep in mind, keep your eye on the lighter areas, okay? I'll tell you what happens is, from a lot of experience in teaching this is people get this first color down just fine. They have retention of light in there. A lot of times they're learning and kind of applying, how to apply their things, and they get the feel of it. They just start going on like that. But then sometimes when they get to the darker colors, they're applying it just as fast. And then they go like this, and it's like, oh my God, all of my lighting is gone. So just when you get to your darker colors, just kind of be more mindful of it. Okay, so here comes brown, a little bit of a darker brown. It's kind of a mid-tone brown. And see, that's about as dark as it looks. This is as dark as it looks right there on a dry piece of paper, but when I'm applying it over, this peach Bellini right here, it goes on a little bit slower because it's kind of going in wet into wet, so it's not transferring as fast. And that's where it, the ease of application comes into play. So, I mean, you might want the process to go faster or whatever, but it's not like a long process to add these colors in like that. But sometimes it starts to get a little bit saturated, so it's like you're going on with your whatever color you think you're applying, and it's like nothing's happening with it because the page is already a little bit, wet. So you need to let it dry a little bit so that the ink transfers and soaks into the paper. Glad you like it, Jeannie. Can't wait to see what you're doing with it. I don't know, maybe you already posted something with that, or if you already got that set. Yeah. That's right, Jeannie. The Victorian area. That's what I was thinking, not the Renaissance. Yeah. Hello, Crystal Fire Creations. Good to see you. The Renaissance. That Renaissance period. So a lot of those figures are kind of like that. And I just realized, too, I was kind of putting it all together. I really like this period of photography in the late 1800s, and that's called the pictorialism. And a lot of these figures kind of look like, they're posed in those similar types of scenarios and settings, out in nature. This one, photographer Anne Brigman, is one of those pictorialist photographers. So, yeah, I don't know. I never looked at the dates and everything like that, but they're all kind of, until recently, and it's like, oh, they're all from that period. So, yeah. Or what was it? The Raphaelites to the, not Neo-Raphaelites. I can't even remember all these names, and I just looked them up like last week or something like that. But love all that type of stuff. Maxfield Parrish. All right, so see that? Can you guys see, the lighting starting to apply in here a little bit lighter? Now, some of it is just like, that's a little bit too light, so I'll adjust and I'll go in there like this. I don't necessarily want the lighter part of the tree trunk to be white, So you can come in there and, just tone it in a little bit. But just in general, a little bit lighter like that, okay? So again, that's lighting and coloring at the same time. Instead of just coloring everything kind of uniformly, which is coloring, okay? So, like I said, it's just easy to do this, but you do have to keep kind of a conscious awareness of the amount of media that you're applying in there. But it doesn't happen like so fast. It's not like going like this, and it's like a full saturation with this one color or something like that. It's not like that. It's just going on nice and incrementally like this. And you're just in complete control over it this way. When it goes on at a slower rate, okay? It's kind of a controlled rate like that too. You can use your sponges, whatever, types of tools you want to use. You can do this type of coloring with colored pencils, not on top of glossy paper, but just in terms of the transitions and light, like I'm talking about. Okay, now see, you might notice, I mean, I am still going to use the greens down here, but I'm just using the browns down there as just a base coat because it doesn't matter where you put them in the process, because all of these colors are just transparent anyway, so it doesn't matter if, you know, you put the green over the brown or the brown over the green, it should look, you know, a little, you know, for the most part the same. There's going to be a little bit of a differences because the first colors that you apply on there apply it in a stronger saturation because you're applying them on a dry piece of paper so that they're staining, you know, much more stronger that way. All right, but that is that. Now, sometimes I don't go all through my entire spectrum of a given hue, you know, before I go on to the next one, but I think I will. And I might have to add more later. I'll kind of let the tree trunks kind of sit for a little bit and have them dry out so that I can get a darker brown applied on there. Now, see, you can also do this too, you know, when you're wiping it like this, you're kind of wiping off some ink sometimes if it starts to build up on your page. So you can dab like this, and that applies onto the page in a thicker application because you're building up these tiny little beads of you know, moisture of that color, you know, dye-based, water-based moisture up as opposed to wiping it off like that. So you can use both kind of, you know, whatever movement's working for you. These are Marvy inks so that they're a little bit thinner than other types of inks so that they do kind of penetrate the page a lot faster. If you're just using like all Memento or Distress or something like that, they're a little bit, you know, they're quite a bit thicker, so you might have to just, you know, allow it to sit. I'm talking about like a minute or two or something like that, you know, before it can, you know, before it starts kind of accepting more media. Just let it set up a little bit and dry. I wouldn't let it dry completely, and I wouldn't want to like heat set because that might be a little bit too dry, okay? Because you still want these colors to just, you know, apply nice and gracefully, okay? So here's what the nice thing about this is too. This is a pretty dark brown right here that you can see, okay? So if I use the worst technique possible, because this is already kind of, you know, a little bit moist, I can go like this in here. I'm not going to do it in here because it's drier, but see that big blob of ink? And see, that just spreads right out for me because I went through the process with the lighter tones, so it's a little bit wet. So you're applying like wet into wet. You're not applying this ink onto a dry piece of glossy, bare cardstock. All right, enough about that. Everyone here has heard that all before, probably. A gazillion times. I just went over it because I figured, oh, I haven't said that like in 2 weeks. All right, so let's see here. All right, those are the browns. Now, this brown is looking a little anemic. You know, I want to add a little bit of greens into it. And, you know, the browns are in the greens, and we'll put some of the greens into the browns there like that, too. So, we found 2 huskies in our yard. They were cute and cuddly. We found their owners and returned them. They had tags then, obviously, huh? They came over to play with your dogs. The last time I found a couple dogs were these 2 Samoyeds were running down the street here. And luckily I was able to approach them and get their tags, and I didn't even know they were like the neighbors, like, I don't know, 4 or 5 doors down. Someone left the gate open. It cracked me up because they were just having, I don't know, they were frolicking, you know, having a good old time running down the street. Okay, so this is peeled paint here, okay? So let's start applying some of that down here. It's a fairly light, and it's not a very vibrant green, But so that's like perfect as my base coat. Okay, so you can see it right there. It's not peeled paint, but it is a drier version of it, and plus it's over the top of my brown, so it's a different version, right? So that's, like I said, it doesn't really matter where you apply these colors in your process. I go from light to dark, when I'm working through one hue, just so I don't have to, you know what I mean? I don't want to have like a dark brown and go into my lighter brown pad, because it'll be, polluting that lighter tone, or it'll, be polluting the lighter pads like that. So if you work from light to dark, it'll be no problem. Okay, but see that green right there? Look at see that the difference between here and here? I mean, I wouldn't, yeah, you're not gonna look at this tree and say, hey, that tree looks like green. It's a green tree. It's a green tree trunk. What's going on with that? But it just looks so much richer like that. But see this, like even, okay, let's do it right down here. Can you see the difference between this area and this brown up here? So it's like what you're doing is you're kind of expanding your range of, like, if you'd imagine like a color wheel or something like that. You see that glow down there? You're really moving into a different hue, or introducing it into the scene. So just, I don't know, it just looks really nice like that. And if you look at these pads like this, these colors, like that, I mean, it doesn't blend into it or something like that, but they harmonize well like that. If I had a pink right here, it would harmonize really well. So you can blend those together like that, and you just need to hold them up. You need to make it visual. Don't make it, it's not like, we're dealing with visual media, so just hold things up, put them in front of you and see if they harmonize to your eye, and if they do, they should harmonize on the page just fine. Wow, yeah, a mile from their home, huh? What is it? Dogs, though? It's like they smell like, I don't know, whatever, 5,000 times better than people. They wanted to see their friends that lived at your place. All right, so I love kind of deepening of the shadow areas. One of the things that one of my professors said one time was sometimes the brightest colors are in the shadow areas. In other words, it's not getting kind of washed out with bright tones or something like that. And see this little area down here? I'm leaving that little area kind of open for my figure here. I hope I didn't make it too dark in there, with that thing right there. Maybe I'll put her like right here. Yeah, I'll just lower her down a little bit. I plan on using some um, white paint pens and stuff like that on the figure too. So that's why I didn't need to kind of stamp her out first and then mask her off or something like that and work all those textures around her. I just figured this area is going to be really light down here anyway. Okay, so anyway, let's see. Let's keep adding some of this in, like so. These should look pretty cool in terms of the scale, these big ArtFoamies stamps like this. Hello, Crafty Chica! That's a cool YouTube name. All right. Good to see ya. Thanks for joining in. Hello, Paul. I still do have Marvy pads, Paul. They might be older than you, though, Paul. They might be older than all of everyone watching, though, out there. Some of them are disintegrating. Like one of those that I just inked up. Oh, the salvia blue right here. This one's really, I don't know, kind of teetering on collapse, I would say. Okay, so this one right here is a celery. This is a brand new pad. In fact, let me see. I mix and match these tops don't go with anything in particular, but these gold embossed ones are like really old, okay? Because these ones came out like, I don't know, 25 years ago or something like that, where these were just too expensive to, gold emboss like that, so they just started using that sticker on top. So the stickers are kind of the newer ones. But like I said, I mix and match my tops, so I don't really know which one was newer and older. But I think there was that one store, online store, and that someone sent me the link to. I think it's called A1 or something, or Supplies A something, but they were still selling not just the Marvy blank pads and reinkers. I think they had some actual Marvy pad, color indexed pads. Now I don't. They would have to be really old, probably. They might have been sitting in inventory for 7, 8 years, but these pads last like 30. So I don't. Um, I don't see it as if you can get 20 years of use out of it, much less like 30 years. That's pretty good in my book. um, yeah, yeah, yeah. Those Marvies, they're getting much harder to find, but they're still out there. And Judykins used to have a bunch of that stuff. I don't know what happened to them. I don't see their online store even anymore. So I don't know if they just kind of got rid of all their accessories or what. Usually someone knows like all the answers to any question that comes up in these live streams. Let me know if anyone knows what happened to Judykins. I should drop them an email though. I don't know. I just haven't seen them in a while. So okay, so this is green. It's a really bright green, but look at that green. It's not looking like a neon, super, super bright green. It has this brightness to it, but it is, relatively kind of earthy looking and natural, but you see that nice glow that's kind of getting established there. That is through the use of multiple layers of transparent media. The more layers you lay down, just potentially, I mean, it can get muddy too, and I do muddy up my scenes a lot of times, and I just bring it back with crisp little highlights or something like that. But potentially, the more layers that you lay down of transparent hue, the deeper and more saturated something can get. Now, I could be doing this on a semi-gloss too, and it would be fine. I just happen to be doing it on the glossy. I didn't do glossy for, I don't know, it seemed like a while, and I was doing semi-gloss just because, I don't know, it was like, especially if you're out of the country, sometimes glossy cardstock these days is really tough to find. Glossy cardstock, sometimes when people say, hey, will that scene, your technique work on regular paper, okay? Well, glossy cardstock's probably a more commonly used stock than matte out there in the printing industry, because a lot of cardstocks and whatnot, I'm talking about for impact, okay? Movie posters, book covers, they're all glossy cardstock, okay? Hardly anyone, uses, I mean, sometimes you'll see satin or something like that, but it's mostly glossy out there. Okay, so that's my little thing about regular paper, but you used to be able to find glossy cardstock anywhere in the world because stores carried it, okay? Stamp stores, scrapbooking stores, I'm not sure about scrapping stores, but it's definitely stamping stores all carried glossy cardstock, and I don't know where they got it from. Their businesses and that type of cardstock is usually catered to, commercial types of enterprises, printers mostly. So maybe they were buying it from printing suppliers or something like that. I'm not sure, but anyways, it's harder to find these days with the absence of, the retail storefronts. So the retail stamping storefronts. So I don't know. Yeah. If anyone knows where to get all that type of stuff, let me know. In an email in a given country, if you're in wherever, France and the UK, where do you get card? There used to be websites that carried all that stuff, and I had links to it, but it's like these days you look up something and it's like you don't know if it's going to be around or not. Or a lot of times it's just not around anywhere. It's it's hey Kevin, that that link that you have on your information section for the cardstock in Australia's dead link. It happens too much these days, folks. But I don't know. We can kind of network and find out all, find good sources for everyone. All right, so here I am. Okay, here's the darkest color. So if you were on watching from kind of, the beginning of this scene right here, I was mentioning, when you get to your darker tones, my darker tones, see, I'm kind of, I'm just applying it kind of like off the page, for the most part. Well, not for the most part, but when I first start applying it, like when you first ink up like that, you kind of add it up like this, and the paper is getting kind of wet anyway, so you're not transferring as much ink over. So this is where people lose their lighting like that. Okay, it's because they take it in there like that at the same rate that they did with those lighter tones, wiping it in like this. You're doing it with the peach Bellini or, something like this. By the time you get in there, it's like, completely dry and light on your paper towel. But if you do that now with, this color right here, it's super dark. Not as much ink is transferring, i.e. staining the surface of your card. That's how dye-based inks work, by staining. So just, in other words, you just stay on the outside a little bit longer, okay? And then, just utilize the dry version of it like this, and you won't get this big streak of dark color in there because you're applying like that amount of it as opposed to like that amount, okay? So, see, I can come in here and get kind of a lighter version of it, but it's because this is so dry on my paper towel. But utilize those drier versions of it, to get that nice range. Okay, so I like this green on here too, so I'm going to apply some more brown up here too, but see how that darker green kind of really darkens in that tree trunk, giving it a little bit more lighting effects, in other words, a transition from light to dark. So we're going from light to darker, the darker you make that out there, okay? All right, so there that is. I'm going to keep that one kind of light because I'm going to have some beams going through there, I think. Are cakes allowed on the Stampscapes Facebook? I don't see why not. Why not? Yeah. Paul was a cake decorator. People that work with, doing like cake, three-dimensional things, I find, are they have a good feel for when they're doing two-dimensional things, but depicting a three-dimensional space because they work three-dimensional. I was finding that with like wood turners and stuff like that. They had no experience stamping, but it was like, when they were stamping on their projects, their wood projects, wrapping stamps around corners and stuff like that. I thought, man, they're gonna have that's a tricky thing to do. But I was thinking, they've been working with their hands and doing like three-dimensional things like all the time. So it was like no problem for them. It's like, oh. Or like sometimes I've asked people, hey, have you ever done like a painting or something like that before? But they'll mention, oh, they did, whatever, pot ceramics or something like that. It's like, oh, okay, So they're seeing things in three dimension. Now, I'm not a three-dimensional, I'm not. But I find that some of those people really catch on to the three-dimensional concepts and like rounded forms really easy because they've been working with rounded forms, whatever, for a long time. So, yeah. Crafty Chica got a shout out. We try to shout out to everyone. Travel Dreamer's been around much longer than the pad. I have two. Froggy Fresh, working on a cake soon. Post it to the Stampscape group and just make sure and stamp some Stampscapes designs into your frosting. Okay, so we're going to some of that brown again, okay? Because it's accepting. We can see it's really accepting the inks right here now that it's a little bit drier. Do you see that? And how it's transferring on there. So you just transfer it whenever it's kind of ready to accept it. It wasn't ready to accept it before. You gotta whenever it's time, for that tree. So you see this one is a little bit darker like that. Okay. All right. Now up top here, I'm gonna make it a little bit darker. We're gonna, just envision this area up top like a canopy of foliage, branches and stuff. So I'm gonna make it a little bit darker up here. And what that does though, is when you make your four corners a little bit darker on a scene, it really contains the composition really nicely in terms of, I don't know, whatever, framing, okay? All right, so let's go with this right here. Okay. Okay, I got kind of green up there, so I'm gonna really knock that. Oh, I'm gonna use black on here as well. So look how beautiful that, the shadow that brown makes down here. It doesn't look brown because we have all the greens underneath it. Now that one's a little bit too, brownish up there. I mean, green. So I'll just knock that down like this. But see what I'm doing right here? I'm bringing this tone in here, so that makes this area, which is lighter, pop out a little bit more. Okay, from the background. So you're just, kind of oscillating light and dark in here. So it's going from light on that trunk to darker to lighter to darker like that. Okay? It's kind of transitioning from top here. It's like darker, right up here. It gets a little lighter and darker down here. So you get this kind of varied surface like that, okay? And again, it's just a matter of kind of putting the brakes on your usage of your, especially medium and darker tones, okay? So just don't tone everything out. We have that nice little spotlit area down here because we didn't color all that in with kind of a uniform application of all those green tones that we used here. So let's see. Never did fondant though. I know what it is though. When did that come into being? That kind of arrived at some point in time when I wasn't looking. Was that like in the 90s or something like that? I know it wasn't around in the 80s. I don't know, unless I just didn't see it or whatever. Our cakes, yeah, let me see. Oh, let's see. Scroll down here. Glad you like the look of it, Crafty Chica. It's coming around here slowly. Find in glossy cardstock is 11 by 17, so I have to buy that. Yeah, the 11 by 17s can be easier to find. One of the things I was mentioning to people too, people that use like a decent amount of glossy cardstock. Let's say, for example, a ream of glossy cardstock, well, what it used to cost is like 20 bucks, $25 or something like. I have no idea what it is now. Chrome Coat is, yeah, that's a brand of glossy, Paul. But let's say a ream of 8.5 by 11 cardstock, say, cost $25 or something like that. 11 by 17 versions of that might be. It was never double. And it might only be, let's say, I don't know, for example, like $35. You know what I mean? So it was a good way to get that. And I mean, if you get a, Frankie Fresh goes through like some larger kind of applications of paper though. But, if you go through a decent amount of it and you want to just be set for life, you might want to think about the 11 by 17 out there, which might be a much more available now than the 8.5 by 11, just, with the pulp shortages that are going on right now. you know, 11 by 17 is probably a little bit unconventional. Most people that are buying it, like 99% of people that are entities that are buying glossy cardstock are printers, and they're not using 8.5 by 11, you know, like a consumer amount size. They're buying it in large sheets to go through, you know, whatever, 3, 4, 5 color printing presses for the most part. So, uh, you know, the consumer size is going to be at that 8.5 by 11. But a lot of those consumers aren't thinking about buying 8.5 by, well, maybe 8.5 by 14, like legal size, but especially like tabloid 11 by 17. So it's a pretty good way to go. I have a lot of 11 by 17 semi-gloss cardstock that I got years ago. You know, for me, even though I'm stamping a decent amount, I'm going to be set for life with that. All right, so anyway, so there's my stronger lighting in there with the dark brown. I almost don't even need to go with black, huh? Oh, you know Judy, okay. They still do shows. I was looking on their website. It's like events. It's like nothing. You know, I didn't look on Facebook though, or something like that. But I know I haven't seen them in. Well, I used to see them, of course, in Carson, but I haven't seen them in like the last Mesa, Arizona show that I did, which is coming up again in March. I think we'll be doing that one with Rubber Stamping Depot. But yeah, I was wondering. I haven't seen Judy and Rob around in, you know, quite some time. But I haven't seen anyone around, you know, in a while. But like I said, I was checking their website not too long ago because I was going to refer people. I wanted to see if they still had some of those Marvy pads or not. And I don't know. I was looking at their site like a year ago or something like that. And yeah, I just couldn't find any information. Okay, so that is that with those tones there. Maybe I'll go ahead and use the black right now while I still have this beautiful high-tech, you know, media applicator ready to go here. This is a piece of paper towel, by the way. It's not a cotton ball. I use the cotton ball for something else, which I'll be doing later here. But this is black. Okay, so it doesn't look super black again because it's not applying. I'm probably applying like, I don't know, like a 50% gray or something like that. But you can see it's getting a little bit deeper in terms of I don't know, whatever the value range. Okay, the shadows down here. I don't know if I have room for my quote stamp, but we'll see. Okay, so what I was getting at was I was going to go with that salvia blue that I stamped out my clouds, and I have fingerprints all over the scene, by the way, with my smudgy fingers like that. I don't wear gloves. I'm not going to wear gloves, you know, when I'm doing stamping. Not my idea of fun. And I just see, you know, if you get fingerprints in your scenes, now I don't want a big fingerprint across, like, you know, like a figure's face or something like that. But, you know, if you get fingerprints in your pieces, I just say, hey, you know, it is a handmade card, so like that smudge down there, it's like that's your signature. You know, this wasn't computer generated or something like that. So if you're giving it to someone, hey, you know, they need to know that it wasn't that you know, you put the care into it to send it handmade. That's my excuse on the spot for not cleaning my fingers off as often as might be beneficial. Okay, so anyways, what I'm doing here is I'm adding a little bit of tone up here just to make that, some lighter areas of the cloud show up. Okay, so this cloud right here, the lower one right here, kind of ended right here. Okay, so I'm adding a little bit of tone right here just to make that edge of the cloud show up. So we're also playing a little bit of contrast in here. The trees are darker on the outside from what's going to be my light source. Okay. But also, you can see that with the clouds too. The clouds will be darker on the far sides of them, and I have two of them here. I could have made it one, but I just darkened in this area a little bit. So it looks like a couple layers of clouds like that. So these ones too are being illuminated from that, I don't know, whatever central light source down there, okay? Okay, so like that. I'll put a big blob of white pigment ink in there when I start doing some of those light beams coming out of there. So hopefully that kind of obscures that a little bit. And sometimes, if you're ever taken to court or something like that too, and, there's a dispute over who did that scene there, then you have your fingerprints in there too, right? Because that always comes up. That always happens, right? Originals, disputes. Okay, this is a little bit of a darker hue of a blue, darker value of blue. All right, so something like that. And I'm adding a little bit down here because blue kind of, blue is a component of green. So sometimes when you have like a different color like that, what you do is, that's why I have the browns down here too. But if you kind of put this in here like this a little bit, and I have a little bit of that blue right there too, it just harmonizes a little bit better with the overall, scenery when you have these different colors kind of, I don't know, present in your different objects right here. Like say right here, okay, I don't want to come in with that, but here's a really pale blue. This is called pale blue, this marker right here. And I can add some of this pale blue in here. It doesn't, I don't want it like a navy blue or something like that, but just having some of that blue in there is just giving it a little bit more, kind of visual harmony like that. See that right there? So there's that little tinge of it like that. So it kind of just, it relates to it because you have this, what represents like colored light within the, within the scenario here. Okay, let's see. Hello, Linda D. Good to see you. How's the weather? What time is it for you now? Was away for a bit. What a difference. It looks great. Thank you so much. I want some foamies. If they can't send, I don't know if you want to order them, but the ArtFoamies, they didn't send things internationally. I don't know if they are yet. I talked to them about that shipping, and I said, there's not, a lot of paperwork that you have to fill out for that. You just put in, type in the value of it and send, Let's see. Yeah, Linda, you need some of that 11 by 17. I wanted to, like I said before, I wanted to send you some of that, but it was like a huge thing, and I thought, it's gonna get all tattered sending it like paper internationally like that. Local print shop. Is there local print shops anymore though, Froggy Fresh? If you have one around you, that you're good. I don't see too many of those like private print shops around anymore. Someone in Australia was found from their local print shop some paper at one point in time. Glossy cut. This is like a few years ago. But when I asked them, I said, "Can you share that information? It's like silence, I figured, oh, maybe they don't want to, yeah, that one source to, potentially get, run out of them or something like that. ArtFoamies, artfoamies.com, Crystal Fire. Oh, the Halloween gloves. Oh, yeah. Yeah, those gloves. Those gloves are the exception when doing scenes. Sponges, I could just be using paper towels and cotton balls. I love it. I have all those tools too, a lot of those. But one of the things I mentioned to someone else recently, I don't know, where's Linda? I was mentioning to Linda right here. I said, hey, um, I wanted to use something that everyone can get anywhere in the world, right? And they already have them. They don't need to go and buy them, chances are, unless they have like synthetic cotton balls. The 100% cotton balls are the things that I use for that white media, so much, much better. Um, let's see. Yeah. Handmade, not Hallmark. A lot of my fellow classmates went to the portfolio review when Hallmark came around to, they used to go around to all the different illustration programs around the country. Not every year, but like probably once every 2 or 3 years back in the day, And uh, when people, you know, for illustrators, people in illustration programs, Hallmark was a pretty big deal because that was one of the few staff type of related illustration jobs, even at that time, because most of it has always been freelance illustration. But working for Hallmark, you're on staff, so a lot of the illustrators, I didn't know anyone that got that. There wasn't anyone in our not in my track, maybe in years after or semester, people that graduated a year after me or something like that might have been. But my own class, I just knew no one was like Hallmark material, from my school at least. We were more editorial illustration, but like Art Center College Design in Pasadena was more of a like commercial art based. We were more editorial, which is commercial too, but I don't know. It was like different styles coming out of the two different schools, so they probably got a lot of people kind of at least probably offered jobs from schools other than Long Beach State. I didn't go to that. I thought I'm not gonna go to Hallmark. Okay, so here comes my figure. All right, so there she. Look at her in the spotlight there. You know, it has a little bit of a different feel than stamping like a deer down there or something like that. And now she needs to be colored, okay, but I'm gonna let her dry a little bit. Then I'm gonna go in there with some um, pens and things like that. Okay, so, all right, so just making an assessment of the things in here. See, that's a little bit too much light on those trees. I don't want it white, okay? I just want it to be a lighter version of that hue on there. So, you know, this isn't exactly the best, this is really good for vast areas of color, big swatches or something like that, but more kind of your more detailed types of colors. Not that this is like super detailed or anything like that, but pens, markers, things like that, to go in here. See, I can get like right up to the edge of that tree with no problem with this. Okay. And, with your alcohol pens, a lot of you have a lot of different versions, values of alcohol pens, and you can just go through your value scale just like you did with dye-based inks. If this is on a matte or semi-gloss cardstock, I like using colored pencils to do this kind of fine-tuning, color. The colored pencils really aren't going to stick to the glossy very well, if at all. You would have to have some really soft pencils for that, I would think. Oh my God. My tip just came off. Here we go. That was weird. All right, so that was 3 versions of that. Let's go back in and blend that out a little bit more. Okay. These markers are probably like 15 years old. Maybe older than that. 17, 18? All right, so anyways, see that? I took that color right out to the edge like that, but it's still transitioning from dark to light like that. Okay. Let's see here. Um, let's try some of this blue up here. Okay. It's not Yupo paper or something like that, but on glossy cardstock, you can kind of blend your colors, your alcohol inks around quite a bit post application like that. Like you can use your blender pen. It's not going to completely blend it out, but you know, you can do quite a bit with you know, the color that's been applied down there because it doesn't soak in like so fast. And then when you go in with like a lighter tone or something like that over the top of I like, you know, using a little bit of a darker tone than going into it with a lighter tone and kind of spreading it around a little bit. You know, that tone that you put on top of it does put that ink, alcohol ink back into solution. And alcohol is good to use on over the top of your dye-based inks because the alcohol shouldn't really smear the dye-based inks that have already been applied, so they stay separate, but they're still both transparent. So you can get that still, that nice deep richness, you know, with the application of those. Okay, so let's see. Let's go in with some green tones again. See what I'm doing right here? I'm just grabbing those values again and just lining them up from light to dark like that, okay? Yeah, this one might be a little bit too bright. Let's go down here a little bit, and I'll add it in kind of that darker area, not really in here because it's a little bit too hot and bright. And you can come in here and spread it around a little bit. That's a little bit too much. It's a little bit too hot. So let me go and find a really light green here. And I like using my lighter versions of a given hue as my blender tool, okay? I don't really use my blending clear one too often because I just like, I figure I might as well be using a color to blend with just a lighter version of a certain color if I'm working with that. But see that nice, you know, deep, rich glow in there? And that's from all these different layers that we've applied. Let's go in here with some of this tan down here too. And let's mix that with that green a little bit more like that. And we'll come up in here like so. All right. Now, I'm thinking for my figure, I'm not sure what, I haven't put my figures like in a colored dress yet. I don't know if I want to do that. I always see them in kind of in white, especially like in those moonlight scenarios here. I wanted this one. I'm going to put this one. I want to put a bunch of like fresh kind of like wildflowers or something like that in this setting here. I was thinking of spring, you know. I've been doing so many nighttime types of scenarios, so but I don't know. Let's see how this goes. She needs a shadow because right now she's kind of floating up there. So I'll add that in there. Okay, there's a little bit of pink and I don't know, whatever this is. Apricot. like that. She's largely silhouette, though, you know. Her face is really obscured in shadows, so it's still kind of a darker, you know, kind of scenario here. Let's see. Oh, they are sending internationally now. Okay, excellent. Oh, perfect. I was telling them I found these options for things like things that are under £4 too, and especially to Canada. It was really reasonable, and it's like some sort of version. I don't know what it is. I think I was mentioning this to you, Linda. But there's no brokerage fees, you know. So if they ship via pirate ship, that's the name of the shipping company out there. It's called Pirate Ship. But they have really great prices for U.S. Postal and UPS. I'm not sure I don't think they do DHL. I think it's just the two of them, but they have some kind of like really great deal. So we're able to give people. I'm not, you know, I don't have to like raise my prices with the like U.S. Postal added this surcharge over like the holidays too, but Pirate Ship negotiated with them so to not have that fee, you know, included with what they offer. So really great deals, and just such great customer service too. All right, so anyway, see that I'm adding the shadow under her, and it's not quite dark enough, maybe. Here, let me go on this one. So I'm adding these layers in here. That's what's kind of nice about the alcohol inks on glossy or just on any type of semi-sealed surface like that. Is I can move it around a little bit because, you know, my addition of these tones is not exactly that graceful as I would like it to be, but I don't have to be because I can blend it out. Okay, I'm gonna have my light coming from there, so the shadow is going this way. But I can add that down like that, and then I can kind of just blend it out like this. Or you can go in with your, you know, I guess blender, you know, blending pen if you really had to, and just eradicate that, just remove it, you know. Which, I don't know, sometimes I kind of have to do. I'm not really great at alcohol pens. Or actually, I'm not like actually even good with them. But, you know, anyways, there's the shadow like that. It wouldn't look like that, but I'm going to add in like a layer of mist down here anyways. I mean, there's some areas that are a little bit clunky, but it doesn't matter because I'm going to kind of obscure those areas anyways with a layer of kind of, you know, dreamy, but also mistake hiding fog. And it's not any kind of secret. I'm telling everyone, you know, if you learn how to apply kind of white pigment ink, you know, with a cotton ball into your scenes, it can remedy just like, you know, I don't know. For me, it's like it remedies. If I ever have any problems on a scene, coloring, stuff like that, blending, you can't really see it too much because I just layer whatever the appropriate amount of white pigment ink over the top of it. The worse it looks, the more fog, you know, we can employ into a scene. And plus, it just looks better anyway, you know, so it obscures, but it also kind of improves and hides, you know. It's not just hiding kind of mistakes or something like that. I think it looks really good, you know, because it's you have something that kind of looks organic and kind of moving in between the objects, and it also creates space and lighting between things. Okay, so anyways, I think she would look really great with a little bit of bluish tones in her kind of flowing, you know, dress here, I think. So I'm going in with this blue because it kind of relates to the colors of the sky too, like that. And when you use blue like this, it doesn't necessarily mean it's a blue dress. It's kind of the shadow areas in here. So I mean, if the dress is white, it could still look, white even with some color on there. Okay, so anytime you have like, here's one of the things. Here's a little thing, a tip for anyone, is if you have something that represents it being white, a building or something like that, a structure, a castle or something like that in a scene, don't just leave it white, okay? Because everything else is kind of rendered with colors, grass and things like that. So if you have something that represents white, you need to get something in there, even if it's like lighter shades of um, uh, colors, blues or whatever, purples, if it's a sunset scene or something like that, or if it's blue skies and you put a little bit of blue tone in there, okay, just so it looks rendered and more rounded. Okay, now this image right here has shadows in it, but you see, you just add a little bit of that tone in there, and the figure seems like it's made out of volumes as opposed to like an outline of it, okay? So just really light tones on there, and that, it doesn't need to do, you don't need to do too much. I mean, you can add more. Like if, she's going to be wearing a red dress or something like that, but if it represents white dress, just put a little bit of tone on there. Oh, thanks. I'm glad you like it, Virgo. Thanks for joining in here. Good to see you. If someone joined in here and I didn't see you, hi to all of you, or hi to everyone that, is checking this out, in the background or whatever. Hello, Jeff. May the day have found you and yours safe and healthy. Thank you so much. Thanks for joining in. Hello, Maureen. Are the other nature sets coming soon? Not too soon. I'm working on a lot of designs right now. Some of them might be a little bit, the ones that I'm working on right now might be too big for sets. They might be coming out kind of individually like that. Linda D, I got a bunch of finger globby prints, and right here, that's not like this isn't like a mistake, but it's just not as rendered as right here, but I don't want to make that too much darker because it's supposed to be like pushed back in the distance. So I just, I put a little bit of or a lot of white pigment ink in there, okay? All right, so let's see. It is, what time was that right there? 2 p.m. It's 2 p.m. in Australia right now. Linda, did I ask you this before, Linda? Are there multiple time zones in Australia? I probably asked that before. Let's see, in Florida, it is 10:36 for Kat right now. Good to see you. Oh, thanks, Laura. Okay, so let's see here. We're going to be adding in some foreground in here, okay? Like, stuff down here in the corners. And I might do an overhang of something. I'm not sure. With these big trees like this, I don't necessarily feel like I have to add like some foliage coming from the top, and sometimes I don't. But we'll see. Oh, I might still be able to do that quote stamp in there. I'm not sure if there's space in there, or if the quote would look... I'm not sure if the quote would look good up there. I think it'd look okay, though. I'm not sure. We'll figure it out. 10:39 in Ontario. Let's see. So that would be the equivalent of our, Eastern Standard Time. Does Canada have, let me see, US has, not including Hawaii and probably Alaska. Does Alaska have a different time zone than Pacific Standard Time? Yeah, how many time zones are in Canada? Like, we have, a lot of people forget about Mountain Time, here. And I even forget about sometimes Mountain Time is like 1 hour ahead of Pacific Standard Time. Hello, Kathy D. Glad you like it. The theme for the new designs kind of Mystic Mountains, let's call it, or so I don't know, um, Mystic Mountains wouldn't be it. I don't know, it would be something like that. Yeah, I'll show you guys when I'm a little bit farther along. I was just working on kind of a mountain yesterday, though, as a new design. But the other ones are, there's a lot of kind of left and right side types of things and layering, okay? And I was considering, I'll need to talk to KP about this, but maybe even doing like a couple of them in ArtFoamies versions, because I think it'd be really good to have like a really big version of something with these new designs. Not to be overly cryptic or anything like that, but yeah, I need to get a little. I don't know how to explain them, you know. But they're different. They're different types of whatever flora than I've had in the past with like deciduous trees, and they're like different pines. Okay, so floral types of effects down here. I'm thinking of, maybe I won't do pink. I always do that. Let me try. Let's put some, I don't know, like bluebells or something. I don't know what it would be down here. Like something like this, maybe, in terms of like little flowers. And plus it would kind of relate to her because her dress is kind of in that pale blue color range right there. So I think I'm going to do like these little, I don't know, whatever, pearly everlasting types of little white flowers down here. These are going to stand out kind of awkwardly. But what you do is you blend all these types of things in, because these are going to be little sharp little points of light in here, okay? And they're going to be very crisp, and especially in some of these darker areas, they're going to stand out. But that's where the white pigment ink comes into play too. Ah, hello in the Netherlands. Good to see ya. Good morning. That's what cracks me up about the online kind of live streams. There's the different time zones. It's really amazing. There's 6 time zones in Canada. Oh my gosh. Well, that must be the same as the US, so what would be, let me see, 6? That's counting something way out yonder then, right? For that 6th one. The US, like I said, I'm not sure what Alaska's in, if that's Pacific, or if that's a different zone. What do they call Hawaiian Standard Time? It's not HST, right? And it is times wood-mounted, no, CM. No more wood-mounted designs. These ones are going to be, like, I'm not even going to have the wood for those types of things. Like my wood company, it's even hard to find people that make that type of wood still. Okay, let's see. Okay, Alaska's 1 hour behind the Pacific. That's what I would have thought, you know? It wouldn't be too much. What do they call that? Alaska Standard Time? All right, let's see here. Okay, so this almost doesn't need these light beams. I'm not even sure if I'm going to add those in here anymore. Maybe we will. I'm not sure. Okay, so this is all white down here. I'm going to try to obliterate that big old kind of fingerprint of mine here. This is just a, 3mm acrylic white paint pen. This is all white in here anyway. I didn't color in there, so so Jeannie, Jeannie has any stamp that was available wood mounted. You have wood mounted then, Jeannie? Sometimes I've had comments from people that they took, they unmounted all their stamps sometimes, but sometimes people will point out to me, except I didn't do the Stampscapes ones. You know, because they liked it on the wood. Okay, let's see. I mean, I got rid of that one fingerprint in there, so not too bad. Okay, so let's go in here with some. Okay, so now see these different paint pens are really nice because they also have different values of your different colors these days. So I haven't used these ones yet. These ones are oil based, and I really need to try those out. My initial test with those ones, though, I thought the oil base would be more opaque and shiny, but they were real similar in terms of opacity to just my standard acrylic ones. But you see all these different ranges of values within a given color scheme. So it's just nice to be able to utilize, you know, different values of a given hue because, you know, for so many years with gel pens or the offering of paint pens like the Sharpie set, there were, you know, like 5 colors of pastel or something like that that we can use. And, you know, we don't miss what we, you know, doesn't exist out there. So, but now that I have these access to these different colors, if I want kind of a darker, less kind of, I don't know, whatever, contrasting mark in here, like say with only using white paint pens or something like that, I can get it with these, you know, which is really nice. All right, so let's see. 4 time zones in Australia. Okay. Got it. Okay, that's what those are called then. Alaska Standard Time and Hawaii Standard Time because they're the only ones, yeah, that would be in those zones. Isn't it fun though? Yeah, Linda. So, I mean, when you put these people in scenes too, it just I don't know. There's a different spirit to them, and of course, you know that this one's like that you know, of a certain type of look too. So that adds to it too. But just you know, I can do the same scene, but here I'm stamping a you know, a deer or something like that, or a coyote. You know what I mean? Uh, Totally different spirit to it. I guess I don't know. I guess you know it's like one of those things. It's when you see kind of a you know this figurative type of figure. I don't know, whatever scenario. There's a little bit of a different kind of a I don't know attention that goes into something like that. I guess. Even if it's on the kind of a subconscious level. I mean, if we're walking along a, you know, some sort of trail, you know, into a scenario like this, you know, we're going to have a little bit of a different type of kind of reaction to seeing, you know, a deer in the background or something like that, you know, especially if you're not around them all the time. It's like, oh, shh, you know, there's a deer out there, you know, or if you see this figure, if you come around a corner and she's dancing out there. I don't know what the reaction would be, you know, to be, but it wouldn't be quite, you know, it'd be a little bit different in some way than, you know, than an animal, you know. Um, you know, this figure dancing out in the woods. And then if I did this all in black, you know, and kind of grayscale or something like that, it might have more of a kind of a haunting kind of feel to it. So yeah, that'd be kind of interesting. We'll do that type of thing for you know, when we're getting closer to Halloween again, instead of like nice floral, you know, flowery types of things, we'll have some craggy branches in the foreground or something like that, and hang it down this way, like in a you know, a little bit of a different spirit, you know. Okay, so I'm just adding these little kind of little whatever, bluebells or whatever they're supposed to be in kind of clusters. I'm adding quite a bit here. They stand out more, a little bit more in the darker areas because there's more contrast. Right here, see, that's about roughly the same value as that. You know, the green value is roughly the same as this. There's a different hue to this one in that it's more blue. But you see that grassy area down there? See that? Those little dots like that? I mean, this one could represent little highlights on, you know, dew on the grass or something like that too. But here, I guess it represents flowers. But it just, I don't know, from a textural standpoint, it really brings, you can bring some areas to life really nicely. Frankie Fresh wants a dingo. I watch a lot of these, I don't know, videos on kind of invasive species, you know, in different countries and whatnot. And, you know, what they're kind of doing, what they did or are doing to kind of the native things. You know, I'm always kind of interested in, you know, how they can try to extract those things. But I don't know, dingo just made me think of that. But I was thinking, watching those things on like, what was that? The cane toad in Australia, and then feral cats. And there was something else recently too. Oh, I don't know. But it's really hard, of course, to get rid of something when it's, you know, some kind of invasive species is in there. The reason why they're invasive is because there's no natural kind of predatorial types of, you know, situations in there. So they just go nuts, and then, you know, then the native species, you know, getting, you know, scarce. All right, so this is a little bit of a darker blue down there. You can't really see it too much because I really added it into these areas where, um, you know, it's roughly the same value. And plus this is darker, so it doesn't stand out as much, but it's a little bit of that, giving that hue down there. Okay, and then here is a little bit of a kind of more of a neutral blue. This first one is a little bit more of a warmer blue. I won't add too much of this. This is not going to be that big of a difference here. Okay, and let's go to white here, the most amount of contrast of all. Okay, let's see. A wombat. Huh. That's interesting. I'm trying to think if I've ever seen either a wombat or a dingo rubber stamp. I don't know. Do you guys have that? I'm sure there used to, you know, there was a lot of different manufacturers in the past. I'm sure there were dingoes from some of those Australian rubber stamp manufacturers, or maybe still, you know, if there still are a few around making those like that. River Monsters. I loved that show. I still watch some of that on YouTube. In fact, I think I just watched a couple episodes of that River Monsters. I don't know, maybe a week or two ago. Okay, so here comes the white. So I'm kind of interspersing that with some of those bluer ones. I mean, I can have some just white on its own too. You kind of cluster it a little bit, you know. When people first are doing like highlighting, or they're doing anything with this pen like this, um, I don't know if I'd say guaranteed, but it's very, very common for people to kind of space these little dots out completely evenly, okay? So when I'm doing this, I'll show you what I'm doing right here. I'm kind of clustering it like this, okay? So there's a little bit of a cluster, and then I taper it off like this. So I put a little bit more of a cluster like that, and then I taper it like that. Okay, now that represents little like flowers or something. Now I'm not doing it vertical. It's supposed to be horizontal, but I can just work easier that way. So that's what's going on down in this area like this, okay? But also like on the sides of these trees right here, okay? What I'll do is I'll just put like a little bit of a highlight like that, then I might taper it off like that. See that right there? So it just kind of transitions out from that more lit cluster, and lit because I'm doing this in light over a darker area, okay? So you can see this area in here. It's not very interesting looking as is because it's, you know, it's just kind of a haphazard kind of application of that color. It looks a little bit sloppy too, and my stamp impression got a little bit dark in there. So what I'm doing is I'm kind of adding this other texture right over the top of it. Now, if you're doing, let's say I did something in my skies or something like that, I could put little white little speckles like this up in my sky, and it represents stars as opposed to flowers or highlights on the grass down here, okay? And that creates another texture, and it puts kind of layering down there, you know, and it, you know, if something came out a little bit, see, there's a little bit blotchy right there with a couple little, I don't know, parts of my stamp that impressed a little bit too hard. So I just bury it a little bit like that. In this case, it's in flowers or something like that, but you're kind of hiding it in highlights like that. It's a crisp little detail like that of light on dark, and we'll bury it a little bit more with a really soft application of light on dark with pigment ink, you know, right in there, okay? So let's make this tree stand out a little bit more, maybe, just to emphasize. I think it looks fine as is, but I'm just gonna put a little bit of this on here, like it's reflecting some light, and it'll blend in a little bit too, a little bit more, if I add in some light beams or something like that. Maybe I'll add in those beams. I'm still kind of up in the air about it, but maybe I'll add in a really faint, you know, beams in here. Okay, but see this? So I'm doing this little highlighting on the side of the tree that's facing my light source like that. It just makes these trees stand a little bit more dimensionally, I think, like that. But if I just did this only on the trees, it might look kind of awkward, so we have all these other textures down here too. I can put some on her dress too, because, you know, I have a lot of that grass text, you know, that sedge filler texture. I mean, some of it's right in the figure too. I can't really see it too much, but I'll obscure it even more going in here onto that dress form. So see, I didn't need to kind of mask her off and kind of work around her because it was already light enough in there. But I mean, I still get some of that showing through a little bit. So you just hit it with some of your paint pen like this. Just like I covered up my, you know, I don't know, whatever, a thumbprint or something like that. Now I can cover up these little sedge filler textures within her dress form. Like that, and then she stands out a little bit more as a result too. So it's, you know, it looks better too, and it obscures, you know, some of that stuff that was underneath there. It looks more dimensional, and plus I didn't have to do a bunch of careful masking because I'll just use this after I've done all that coloring, so it saves me a lot of time too. The carp, oh yeah, the carp's an invasive fish out in the, like the Midwest, I think. It's the Asian carp that's gone nuts, and they're trying to really kind of block it off from migrating up into the Great Lakes, I think. If that's the same one. Crystal Mile had a coyote as a pet. I should have named this coyote that used to come and sleep on our back porch up in my previous house. used to have these coyotes, especially during the summertime when it got really hot. The back of this house was kind of in a canyon area a little bit. It was like in the middle of the city, but you know, we're along the hills, so. But there was a coyote that would come around, and I'd always see him laying back there. He wouldn't see me, so sometimes I might just be on the other side of the sliding glass door, you know, working on my computer or something like that, and they would be right there. Always just one, though. I haven't heard the coyotes outside in a while, too. I don't know what happened to them. Okay, let's see. Dakota, though. That's a good name for them. Pythons, yeah, the pythons are really bad. Pythons in Florida. Florida's bad, you know, area for invasive species because everything's going nuts there. Iguanas. I got these people going out and you got to hire these guys to go shoot a bunch of iguanas. Like, if you're going out there with these BB guns. That's so crazy. All right, let's see. I'm kind of debating on whether or not to do some of this. This quote here, I'm not sure about it. I might add it, I might not. It would certainly be appropriate, but if it's too squeezed in here, I'm not going to do it. It's between every two pines is a doorway to a new world, okay? And it's kind of a dreamy looking scenario here, so I think that would be pretty cool. But I think this is like, it goes like from edge to edge. I think that's just too tight right there, you know. If I had a little bit more space on each side, like, oh, this thing, I should have had this a little bit over like that. Okay, so forget that. So let me put a little bit of something up there too. I got, you know, like I said, it was really smudgy up there. Okay, but let's add in the white pigment ink first. In here, the white pigment ink first will be kind of in back of my foreground elements. Okay, if I add foreground elements in there and add that white pigment ink, it's going to look like it's in front of them, of course. And you can layer it too. You can add background stuff, add some white pigment ink over it, and then add in more foreground in there too. So it's like you've sandwiched a bit of mist or whatever, fog, in between foreground elements too, and that's pretty cool. Kiwis are from New Zealand. I know that very well there. We always had these wrestling teams. My wrestling coach in high school had a relation with, like, I don't know whether the New Zealand Wrestling, you know, Federation or something like that. So you have these kind of cultural exchange things coming over. So we hosted them, and I don't know. I don't know. We call them Kiwis or something like that. But that's what. And then we had this not tournament, but match, and where you have to go and you give, you know, your opposing, you know, opponent some kind of like gift, and I got this little kiwi pin. Okay, so let's see here. All right. See all these cotton balls. I need to toss these cotton balls out. So the ones that are a little bit used are good, but once they start getting too hard, that's no good. So, not that these are expensive, you know, or anything like that. You know, what is there? So there's 150 cotton balls in here. So that's 100, you know, like 300 scenes in there, right? And you can get these anywhere. You can get them in the Netherlands, you know, in Australia, Canada, right? Anywhere. Big thing is 100% pure natural cotton. Don't get the synthetic ones. They don't work worth a darn. You know, it's not that they don't work as well. I find they don't work at all, you know, in this type of process here. It's because it doesn't wick. It wicks moisture. It doesn't like absorb it. So I don't have anything to transfer if it's not, you know, absorbing into the material. So let me see. Where's my other? I need my C for cotton ball. And all right, let's see. Okay, so I'm going to have a a little bit of some light coming through. We'll do it fairly subdued here. Okay. So here's your this is a light beam template that you can purchase online. Right? Light beam templates, okay? I'm sure that there's probably some template out there, you know, where it's that someone's going to come up that says light beams, okay, and it's going to be like set like this, okay, and I don't know, maybe that's cool or something like that, but you can keep it a little bit more kind of natural looking if you just kind of vary the width of your beams here. What you have, the big trick here is you're emanating your beams from one spot. Now, even if it's off page or something like that, have that one spot there and always have the beams coming from that one spot. If it's a thinner beam, then you go here. If it's wider, then you go up there, okay? But mine is going to be coming from this open area down here. Okay, that's what it's going to represent. So we're going to add, I'm going to do it like right there, kind of in the center of where my little thumbprint was. Let me see, let me get my bearings here. I go like this here. Okay, so it's going to be coming from behind her. See, she's right here. And I'm going to have it coming like in here and then right through here, okay? We'll add in a few of these, okay? Now, I'm not going to have these like super contrasting light, okay? It'll be a little bit lighter. I think that'll look better. Okay, let's see here. When a fox screams, it sounds like a child. I don't think I've heard a fox scream before. I watched there's a video of like this fox channel. I think it's a fox rescue channel or something like that. It's online. I've seen that come across my YouTube feed before. I've had a fox 6 feet from our front door in Suburban. Okay. There used to be this documentary on dogs. It was like all about dogs, but they were doing this like experiments in I think it was Russia or something like that. I don't know, whatever. But they were getting the most tame foxes and personality-wise, and just breeding those ones. And it was just amazing that like it was like only in like, I don't know, it was like 4 or 5 generations of that. Suddenly you get these like different colored foxes that look more like dogs, right? And they were just so docile and well, their temperament was really super nice and everything like that, because they were just doing a breeding experiment for personality as opposed to looks, like a lot of like purebreds were done, So they were talking about more personality types of things, and it was weird just how few generations of this kind of experimenting and breeding like that took, to get all these different colors of, pure, they were pretty red foxes, but I don't know, it was just, in a controlled environment like that. It was really interesting. All right, so here's this beam coming through here. I broke up the beam. I didn't go at all, and I don't want it in front of her face either. That would be really bad. Okay, so let's go like this, and let's get my bearings here. Let's come like this here. Okay, now see this one right here. Let's do this right here. Let's kind of bring this across like this. And let me hang this one a little bit. What I mean by that is I'm not going to go all the way down here and make this a solid beam. I'm going to kind of spend a little bit more time on the top part of that, okay? And I'm just going to blend in a little bit down here. So we're going to get some of it down below, down to that bottom portion like that, but it's going to be heavier on the top like that. So see this right here? So you get this beam, it's a little bit heavier on the top, and see how it kind of curtains down? It's going from light to darker out here, just in terms of lighter over here and darker over here, but it's also going from light on the top and darker down here because there's less of that. You see what I mean? So that's how you can kind of hang that. And I think that makes for kind of a more natural looking beam, like right in there. Okay, now these look really kind of out of place. It's because you have to add in kind of whatever, the appropriate amount for it to kind of make sense. And that's the same thing with any kind of texture, like a new texture that you're adding to something. Just like the, the paint pen marks. Okay, so adding down like so. Okay, now one of the things is too, I'm going to spray seal this. And when I spray seal these white pigment ink applications like that are very light and airy looking, the sealants, the acrylic sealants kind of obscure them a little bit more. So I'm going a little bit whiter and thicker of an application, knowing that, some of that's just, and then plus when this dries, as we're sitting here doing this right now, I think when this dries, it won't be, it won't stand out quite as much either. So, so we'll keep that in mind here. And okay, so when you're doing this too, as you start working on it, you might say, okay, I got a beam that looks pretty good. And then if it disappears on you, hey, you can always just add it back in there too. Okay. You just lay your mask down again, and then, go with a thicker layer on there. Or, if you want to make it brighter, kind of towards the source of light too, then you do that. Might have some that are kind of narrow as well. I added a little bit too much, so you just kind of wipe it off like that. And it'll wipe off very easily. Or if you add in too much, you can also pat it with a dry part of the cotton ball, and that will remove it. Okay, so let's see. I'll go with one or two more, I think. I want a little bit of a change. These are all kind of evenly spaced like that. So let's hit another one right in here. They call these crepuscular rays. The thing that always kind of I found interesting about this, reading up on different types of weather things, is that crepuscular rays, they're parallel with each other. So I guess it's, you would think that if they're emanating from the sun or something like that, they wouldn't be parallel. But every book, it's like they always make a point of saying, when you see these rays like this, that they're parallel with each other. So I guess it's going back in perspective. I figured that, but I don't know. You think that rays kind of, if the sun's gone out, you think they're going out like that. All right, so anyways, that is that. Now that looks kind of weird too, so what we do is we're going to blend in, we're going to add in this fog, because if you see these rays in here, you're saying that there's fog, there's moisture suspended in the air, so we need to add that back in there, okay? Linda D has our 100% cotton balls. Kat's going to check her package. Use the other cotton balls for something else. Use your 100% cotton ones for your crafting supplies or something like that. If the two are the same, And plus these bags are so inexpensive too. I don't know. Maybe the 99-cent store or something like that. I don't know. Is it the 99-cent store? I think they still call it that, but it's but it's not um, 99 anymore, I don't think. There are black foxes. There was a black fox, one of those things that they bred. It was like turning like grayish black, you know, and it's super long, like it was almost like Angora hair. Let's see. Dark gray red foxes. When I received Dab in the beams, I remember your alien abduction. Yes, definitely. Okay, so let's add some of this in. So this is our source of light right here. And then I'm adding in more of this around in this. This is not going to stand out very much. You're not going to be able to see it, but see this right down here in this green area like this, okay? And like I said, in this area over here with kind of my, you know, less than kind of graceful application of that color down there, you know, I just add in some of this white pigment ink. It's not, you can't really see it happening very fast, and that's kind of the secret to doing this. Just as we don't want to add in big, huge, you know, additions of color instantly. You don't want to add in big additions of this. That's where people do this. They go into like this, and then they go in here, and it's like a big blob. Now, my ink pad isn't, I keep one ink pad kind of dry or medium dry or something like that. Okay, but if it's really wet, you know, there's nothing to stop you from kind of blotting it off first and then taking it into your scene, okay? So just do that, and you know, you'll have a much, really simple time. But here's what happens if people do this the first time, okay? They go like this. Okay, so I barely have any ink on here, right? So sometimes they go like this, and they're expecting to see, they want to see white, and it completely developed instantly, okay? But you just do that, you know, I mean, it doesn't take long. It's like 10 seconds or something like that. But people want to see it with like one dab sometimes. So it's like they go like this and it's like a big blob. And then they think, oh my God, he made it look so much easier. And it's because they're using like way too much ink on this, okay? So it's kind of the opposite when you're adding color. With your first base layer color, you want to add a lot of that. So sometimes they're still thinking that way when they get into something like this, white on dark, okay? But you really want to go into this kind of with the spirit like you're adding in. I always tell people it's almost like the spirit of adding in like powder in here. So think about like a cotton ball, like if you're adding in like makeup on a child's face or something like that, like, you know, cold pack cream or something like that or whatever. That's kind of the spirit by what you want to do it. You want to just layer it in. So see, it's getting lighter and lighter there the more I add in there. But that was probably, I don't know, it's probably like 30 taps or something like that. It doesn't take a long time to do. But see, here's what I'm doing too, is I'm taking it right there, and there's going to be a thicker application, but then you transition it like this, okay? So it's the same thing like tapering out from a cluster like that, right? Or a line, and you kind of space your little dots out. Well, in this one right here, you just kind of add a thicker amount. Then you can just kind of taper it in there like that, so you get this transitioning amount like that. That's the part that's really kind of weird for people to do at first, you know. And if you get too much over there, you know, you just dab it off like this, okay? I mean, if I don't want any of that, I can just go like this, and it's like completely gone. Do you see that there? So you don't need to worry about it. Now, it comes off easier, you know, on, you know, glossy cardstock, okay? Like if it's matte, it's, you know, it might adhere, you know, into the pores of the paper a little, you know, a little bit faster or a lot faster and dry. But, you know, your semi-gloss papers or something like that, don't worry about it. Just, you know, kind of add it in there. And sometimes, you know, when you start tapping a little bit too long, you might be removing ink more than applying it. So just keep that in mind and use that for your advantage, okay? Yeah. Okay, so taking that and tapering it like so. Now see this tree right here that's kind of in the light like that? I like doing this at the base of trees. So see this right in here? See this right in here? I don't find that to be a very interesting area in terms of colors or something like that. But see, add a little bit of this down like this, and you've added in this kind of illuminated textural in terms of saw. That's too much right there, but let's spread it around a little bit. So it adds just a really soft light into those areas like that. Okay. Let's mat that down. I just rotated this cotton ball to the clean part of it, and I'm just removing off a little bit like that. So there it is, that little bit of fog kind of creeping in like this. And now we've made sense to the beams too, because the beams are reflecting that suspended moisture that's supposed to be in this, this space right here. And you can put it on, some of these lighter areas. And here it is up in the clouds too. This isn't going to stand out very much because there's not going to be much contrast between white lightly applied in that area, but you can make your clouds look nice and billowy and soft like this. Okay. Going right over there. I'm not going all the way up there. I'm just kind of having it here, and then I'm tapering it like that a little bit. Okay. Texture's a big part of kind of visuals, okay, and you can really expand on the textural range of your pieces by adding in these little things like little crisp little dots, and soft, misty applications of color like this. I always tell people this isn't just for scenic stamping either. You have a word stamp that says happy birthday or something like that on a white piece of paper or something like that, and you kind of do the top portion of it, and it'll look like that happy birthday is being top lit. The word stamp is being top lit, which would be kind of cool. Okay, now here she is right here. We have these trees that are being, that has this kind of illumination. So we're going to follow suit with putting her in that same misty kind of environment like that, or misty kind of illuminated light like that. So there she is, kind of a part of that. So we'll go with some of that down at her feet. And then the light is coming from back over in here. So maybe we can add a little bit of that, on her head or something like that. So I don't know if you can tell there. It's I came in with a little bit like right in here, so it's a little bit more obscure. So she's kind of sharp and in focus, but then also there's areas that are kind of more in mist like that, okay? And speaking of foxes, there's one kind of hiding behind that tree there. This would be a great, having this dancer. Can you imagine this scene right here if we had more space down here and you put like a ton of animals down here? The forest creatures, right? That'd be kind of cool. Okay, I'm going to put a little bit more lighting right around my source of light here. Okay, let's wait for this to dry a little bit. And let's see how this looks. Okay, let's see. I'm glad you guys like the beams. I think it looked fine without them, but I was saying I wanted to see what this beam, would look like kind of coming from kind of a lower area on the horizon like that. I think I've done it with like sunsets before, but this isn't like really supposed to represent sunset, with this white lighting. It's more like high noon, but this is maybe a ridge or something like that. I don't know. Something like that. But yeah, it's a little bit more 3D. But the beams too. Okay, I'll show you what I do with the beams too. The beams are a little bit harsh for me right now, but I still have the foreground to add in here, so I'm going to do that. Let's see. Is the Nature Set 30 also available as separates? No, they're not. I didn't want to have those separate because if you do like separates of designs, now I'm going to do that with some of my designs, but plates are so expensive these days, so I give people a lot of, now if people only like 2 or 3 designs out of one set, that's not a good deal if you're not going to be using them. But if people like 70% or 6 out of 10 of them or whatever, You know, it would be the same price as if they bought those separate designs individually. But with these ones, I don't know, these ones are like, I don't know, they're kind of out of the ordinary from a lot of, you know, other Stampscapes designs. So um, I wanted to keep them on a set like that. Okay, so I'm going to add in some foreground down here, and that'll kind of break up some of the line, some of these lines, okay, a little bit, which I want. And let's do that. I'm looking around here. I'm kind of hesitating in my voice because I was wondering if I should add in. Let's add in a couple more kind of like brighter little highlights down in that grassy area. And it's just, if I do that right now, I won't have to work around, you know, some of these reed stems or something like that. So I'm just adding in a little bit of a brighter, whatever this represents, highlight, or I don't know, like a wildflower or something like that. You know, so what I'm doing right here is you can get a whatever 0.7 millimeter dot like that, but on some of them I'm just doing this little scribble to get that larger dot down like that. And when you're doing something like stars too, it's really good to get a little bit of a change in scale in these areas as well. You know, a little bit of a larger star, maybe closer, brighter star, younger star, whatever it's supposed to represent. But from a textural standpoint, it's just a little bit of a change in its textural variation. Oh, okay. So I'm doing this right here too, and what occurred to me too is let's add in these little. It's almost like little lens flares. Okay, so I'm going to put in some of these little dots into these beams here, like this. I'm not going to add in like a gigantic lens flare, but let's do that right here. It should be nice, and it gives it a little bit of a magical look to it. I call them orbs, but I'm just putting them in the light beams here in this scenario. Okay, let's see. Another tool that you probably have. If you've seen these videos, you see me use these, but right, cotton swab, Q-tips. I don't know what brand these are called in other countries or whatnot, but again, 100% cotton ones. Okay, and I have used the synthetics too on those ones. And not working very well. Okay, so these are going to be a little bit too tightly wound, okay, for what I'm going for. I don't want this big, thick ball of, you know, ink, you know, like that, all right? So what I'm going for is something much lighter, so what I do is I kind of loosen up the tip a little bit, okay? You don't want it completely frayed or something like that. And then what you want is you want a real light, soft application, right? So if you want a soft glowing light, you want kind of a softer application of media. Makes sense? You know, as opposed to like a blob of paint or something like that. So you get it where you want in terms of the consistency, and then add it to your scene. I might have taken off too much, okay? If you have it too dry, you might be removing some of your light beam there, okay? So have a little bit wetter, or as wet as the beam. Or not wet, but as thick. Okay, you see these little things like this. I'm gonna have the ones that are a little bit closer, a little bit more illuminated. not a huge difference, but illuminated in terms of the amount of kind of glow coming from it. But see that? Like that, it looks like it's kind of emanating now. So if it's a little bit of movement, it has that kind of movement coming out of there, like an oil lamp that we all had in the 70s. An oil lamp in the 70s might have a figure like this in the center of that lamp. You remember seeing those oil lamps back then? We never had one, but I always like every time we went to like a furniture store or something like that that had them. We'd always go and check out the oil lamp. If you guys even know what that is. Okay, here we go. And you gotta let that little dot dry a little bit, otherwise you kind of, like, when you tap down on it, you kind of remove it, but I don't know. Those paint pens dry pretty fast. Okay, so anyways, there's a little bit of that illuminated light kind of emanating from there a little bit more. And plus it puts a little bit of visual interest into these areas like that, in my opinion. Okay, let's see. We're working with the ArtFoamies. I'm going to go with a little bit more of a larger and smaller reed in here. Okay. The ArtFoamies, I don't like to. I'm not going to use. I'm not going to use stays on that one, but I think I will use the stays on with the smaller one with the rubber. Okay, I don't want to use stays on this foam type of stamp. You might be able to, but I don't know. I just don't like the idea of that stays on drying in there. Okay. On a real foamy, you know, absorbent type of material like this. Okay. I don't know if I'm going to use the smaller one. That looks pretty good on its own. See this right here? It is like down there in the foreground like that. So what we're doing right here is we're framing off our character a lot more by having this here, and it's also creating scale, and plus it's also something that's, you know, these little kind of highlights like this and the beams kind of represent something that's, you know, coming off the page like this. So this is like adding another layer of depth into your scene. Okay. Changing the height and angle with each impression. See this, I start up high, then I work down like that. High, work down, and we'll go like that right here. So just using the tips like this. They also kind of point to our figure like that, but they're also just kind of framing the bottom portions of the scene. But see how that texture down here looks, you know, it's kind of nice against that texture. It's something crisp against soft. That soft was something against, you know, crisp right back here. So you go crisp, soft, you know, but it represents something that's coming out at you like that. So this is another way, you know, it's another element of whatever, sharp as opposed to soft. So you're playing these contrasts against one another. And it's also dark against light too. All right. So I think I am going to add in some foreground up here. And we'll go with, I think I'm going to go with the larger leaves too. We're going with everything kind of, that larger reed's kind of pushed out from the background a little bit more. This isn't like a huge, well, this one is quite a bit bigger right here. See, that's the leaves. So let's go with these ones right here. Like about like so, okay. All right. Let's see how it goes. Oh, there are bugs flying through the beams. It's the woodland spirits, maybe. Let me just test this. Every time when I'm inking up a foamy because it's absorbent, I'm never quite sure if I'm really inking up all the way. I'm sure I am, and there's always like a ton more ink in there than I think, okay? Because it's absorbent. So it's not even what's on the surface, but when you start making your impression, you're kind of squeezing out some ink. But this is the last things I'm doing on this scene, so I want to make absolutely sure, you know, I don't want to stamp it out and have it come out gray. All right, so we'll hold down a little bit longer too, because there is alcohol on, you know, a lot of these areas. So we want this water-based medium to, you know, imprint over the top of, you know, alcohol. So we're doing the same type of thing, kind of just framing it off from the sides like that. Weren't those oil lamps cool? Yeah, it was always like some kind of figure in the middle, like you know, sometimes it was like a Roman figure or something, you know, Greco-Roman type of thing, or like a sculptural form. I think they were usually gold, right? Those women, you know, those figures in the middle. But yeah, we used to love seeing that as a kid. It was always in this one, I think it was the furniture store that we always went to. I don't know, it seemed like we were going there every time we were in this one area. We can gaze at that for well, I don't know about for hours, but for a long time. Okay, so see those plants, but then we'll do it from the opposite side too. Maybe I won't kind of go so predictably, you know, right there and there, but maybe I'll bring it down here and I'll just kind of break up that beam a little bit. You know what I mean? So it's not so, everything's not so symmetrical. And let's see. I think I inked up everywhere where I'm going to be. Always ink up more than you think you're going to use. I'm going to use like this amount of it, so I've inked up about that much. Let me ink up a little bit more. Sometimes when people are just going to use a certain portion of it, they ink up to that certain point and then they stamp it out, and then they went lower or whatever down, and there's like this blank area up there. Okay, I mean, in which case you can just stamp another impression up there, but you know, it's always better to, you know, kind of get a little bit closer to whatever the intended mark than to have to kind of, you know, compensate for something missed. See ya, Froggy Fresh. Good night. All right, see those leaves coming in like that. Now, when those leaves dry, because now if I did them in StazOn, they would stand out much, you know, stronger. I mean, you could do them both, you know, like I said, you can hit it with one ink and then hit it with another. But that one's going to kind of, when it dries, it's going to be much more, you know, kind of incorporated into the background from a textural standpoint. Sometimes when you use that solvent ink, I'm finding, I'm kind of learning about StazOn in conjunction with other media, but I feel that when you use that StazOn, I think it stands out a little bit more, kind of in a three-dimensional appearance, than just going straight with the dyes like that. These would be cool, kind of embossed too. I haven't been embossing lately, but I can't emboss dye-based inks. But I'm just saying, if you stamped it out in a, you know, black, I don't know, whatever pigment, you know, with a clear embossing powder, then we can get a little bit more dimension on there. I need to get back to kind of doing some more of those types of scenes. with embossing powder for the foreground elements. Okay, I'm going to put another one right here. I wanted to put a leaf, some leaves across these two trees like that, you know, to kind of soften up this one hard edge like that. These leaves in the foreground too, these are like hard verticals like this, and where they intersect that area up in the sky, kind of giving me these like 45-degree angles everywhere, like that, you know. This kind of softens up that area like that. And plus we have that going with the trees too. There's all these angles. So if you can soften up some of those areas like that, it kind of, I don't know, it gives a little bit more visual harmony to pieces. I was mentioning to someone on the Facebook group that posted a round scene. It's like, I do need to get out and now that, you know, I don't have it, but my wife has a Cricut machine and she can cut out, you know, any kind of size oval or round or I'm sure trapezoids, any kind of shape you want. And then the hard thing about using, you know, like an oval like that is, you know, it's good to have like something that you can mount it on, or, you know what I mean? That would be oval as well. So she can cut it out like designate, I don't know, 5-inch width and then 5 1/4, you know, large or something like that, wide in white paper or something like that. And you need all these layers can be cut out with that, you know, that Cricut, you know, with ease, you know, whereas before it would be really difficult to do that. Okay, so we have all these foregrounds in here, and you could add in like little highlights on some of these leaves if you want to, like it's sparkling in the light, you know. I think it stands out kind of as is, but maybe let's add a couple little highlights on these leaves in here. I'm going to do something really, really kind of light on here. And we'll have it down on some of these reeds too. Maybe the reeds where some of that light beam is coming across them. I'll put a little bit of a highlight on those ones especially. Just to emphasize this beam coming across, I'll put little highlights down. Okay. And this one right here is right in here. I'm just kind of doing this little tiny tap. I don't want a big, you know, highlight on these foreground elements here. But where I was saying these leaves will kind of merge, you know, when they dry. They won't be so dark against something light. And when I spray seal this too, those trees that look a little bit more grayscale, they're going to look a lot darker too. So I don't know, putting a few little highlights on this can kind of create a little bit more or retain a little bit more separation between foreground and background. From a lighting and textural standpoint, let me see if I can show you this. I just put these really tiny ones on there, so I don't know if you can see it or not. You can see a little bit in there. I know this is kind of out of focus, but there's little dots on these leaves right in here. And, oh, I can't show you it. It's not really coming up, but I put little highlights on these reeds like that. They're really tiny. Like I didn't want them to stand out too much. So let's see here. Okay, let me change my exposure here a little bit. There we go. That's about the, that's what the scene looks like in person right here a little bit more. I had to change my exposure on my camera because we went, you know, it was exposing for a white piece of paper before. So that's what that looks like. So, yeah, we'll spray seal, it's matted up, and I don't know. Anyone have a good name for this piece right here? We can do that again. And for those that you know, that haven't seen that, I'd have people, we'll have like a little bit of a naming, not contest, but see if someone can come up with a good title for the piece that was created, you know, in that video or in the stream. What about Bugs in the Light? Who said that? That That was Crystal Fire. Crystal Fire said that, not as a title, but yeah. Oil lamp. Oil lamp. What about oil lamp forest? I think it was oil lamp forest. We would put. I would glue a bunch of crystals down on all the different forms here, or something like that. We should do something. We should do an oil lamp Facebook challenge. You know, it'll be the Stampscapes oil lamp challenge. So we stamp out a scene like this and just draw lines in here or something like that, or lines going in every direction like that, and put like a little drop of I don't know, whatever, gold, you know, a gold dot on everything. That might be kind of cool though, now that I think about it. Let's see here. Greek and Roman sculptures. I was going to do a figure on some of those Greco-Roman pieces today, but I was thinking, oh, I've been wanting to use the foamies with these stamps, like with these little figures like that, just to give it a little bit of a different scale and to see what that would look like. But yeah, I you know, speaking of Greek and Roman sculptures like that. Let's see here. It's almost midnight for Linda D. They're in Eastern Standard Time. Dance like nobody's watching. Woodland spirits. Dancing with the spirit. Spirit dance. The spirit dance might be, that might be more of a, maybe, spirit dance would be a good one for like a nighttime scene, I think, maybe. What about, I don't know, something to do with the, you know, springtime, or, I don't know, something, illumination, forest enlightenment. I don't know, what do you guys think? Frolicking in the light beams. That'd be a good one. Woodland spirits. I'm up for that. It can't be too long of a title because it doesn't fit in the, you know, when I do the edits on these videos, for those title things, it's like, I don't know how many characters it can be, but it's not very many. Tree dance. Magical fairy. What's another word for tree? The arbor dance. That sounds like the safety dance from the 80s. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah. Anyone was there a wonder light? That's cool. The way, I don't know, the way we kind of go is if I just see like someone's seconds or thirds a title, you know, the first one to do that, we'll title it that. This scene right here, I don't do mirror scenes, vertical ones, because it's too long of a thing like that. But to have these things like that, that character right, that would reflect down in a lower section very well. I did that on, you know, that moonlit one the other day. That, you know, a lot of people seem to like. But this one would be kind of cool too with those brown trunks in there like that. Afternoon delight. Just like the song, Phyllis. One of those kind of misunderstood lyric songs in there. Temptress in the mist, I think. I think you meant mist, yeah. Dancing amongst the giants. That's cool too. Yeah. Yeah, well, how many people are still on? I don't know. What does everyone think here? So Linda D has two suggestions for this one. One of them is Temptress in the Most and Temptress in the Mist. I'm just joking. Oh, the safety dance. Yeah. With copyright issues, huh? So we can just combine them all together, going against that idea of a kind of a shorter tile. Wonderlight, tree dance in the mist. Wonder tree dancing in the mist. I don't know. Yeah. Nothing's coming to mind for me. I find it easier to title my nighttime pieces, but the daytime pieces, I'm not really quite sure. Yeah. Frolicking in the Sun. That one's cool. There was a couple frolickings in there. Okay, let me see. Let's like red redwood rumba. I always like alliterations like that. Let's see here. Woodland spirits. What about? Let's see. Woodland spirits. The spirits. Spirit dance. Yeah, the spirit dance again. I think that sounds better like in a nighttime setting, huh? But that would kind of be cool. It'd be combining a couple of your ideas out there. Yeah, spirit, spirit. That sunbeam. That sunbeam sounds good there. That's combining its sun there. Sunbeam, spirit, sunbeam spirits. Sunbeam spirits would have that. Alliteration like redwood rumba. Forest nymph. Huh. Okay, let me write a few of these down here, or at least some of these keywords. We're going with some of these keywords here. The redwood rumba makes me want to go to Redwood National Park or see some redwoods somewhere. I think there's some redwoods in Yosemite. Yeah. Forest. Redwood dancer. Yeah, that dancer sounds interesting. The dancer, lovely lady. Sunbeam waltz. That does sound pretty good. Sunbeam waltz. Huh. Frolicking forest nymph. Frolicking. Let me see. Did I write down that frolicking? All right. I'll figure something out based on those keywords there. All of them would be pretty cool. It almost gives it a little bit of a different character, you know, when you title it. The spirit of the piece, you know, when you with the name, huh? It could be the you name it card. All right. I've been signing some of my latest pieces. I'm going to abbreviate my last name there because it's too long. I should just write Knock. Although that was the nickname that my brother always went by and my dad. Everyone always just called me Kevin. Or in the stamping world, my name changed to Ken somewhere along the line. All right, so that is that. So this will get spray sealed. Okay, so the colors are pretty rich here. Sometimes it already kind of looks like it's fading out a little bit, but I'm going to spray it. I think I've been spraying sealing with a triple thick, Krylon triple thick lately. So on those, I'm going to have to be really careful about, with the triple thick, especially on these beams right here. These beams are fairly delicate, so if you give them a really thick coating right away, if you give it more than one coat, you can kind of just lightly spray seal it and it seals it off. But I don't want that acrylic sealant to be sitting on the surface for too long before it dries, okay? Otherwise, you might stand to lose maybe too much of those beams. Now, like I said, sometimes it incorporates in with the background a little bit more, giving it sometimes an even better look, okay? So, oh, that sunbeam, sun rays waltz, that sounds pretty good too. But so I'm going to be careful about that, okay? Especially, I've been using this triple thick that I had for a long time, but I haven't been using it because it was almost too thick. But I find that when I spray it at nighttime, it goes on a little bit better because it doesn't dry so fast. But, you know, like I said, so what I do is I spray seal kind of around on the perimeter like this, more than in the, usually it's in the center of my cards that have more of that white pigment ink, because that's where the lighting is. Usually I don't usually have it on the, like the edges. The edges are usually darker with dye-based inks. So I'm going to spray it like that, you know, and with that overspray will get in there and it'll seal off that area. But it won't be so thick in this area. But like I said, I'm going to be real careful about not, you know, giving that too heavy a dosing. But then if I do, that white pigment ink can apply over the top of an acrylic sealant just fine. But you'll just have to seal that acrylic sealant in. I mean, you know, that white pigment ink in between two layers of sealant. So just keep that in mind. But yeah, you can always do that. The one thing that you can't do, if you add an acrylic sealant to this, you're not going to be able to add in additional dye-based inks in there, but you can color acrylic sealant with more alcohol ink if you want to. It'll apply to that. But again, I would kind of you know, seal it off again or something like that too. So anyway, oh, this is size right here. Cat is 7.5 by 10. 7.5 by 10, and it's so I can, you know, kind of mat it off within a, you know, a little bit of a different color like that. So it'd be a little bit like that, and like for example, I think I'm gonna go with a dark glossy matte, so it'll look roughly like that right there. So that's why I do this, because I have pieces of these, you know, types of papers like this in 8.5 by 11. So, you know, the white is going to be just a tiny, thin little border like that, but then I'll have enough of a, you know, roughly a little bit under a 1/2 inch border around the entire thing like that. This is this doesn't look like it, but this is like blue. You can see it now. It's blue, but it's, you know, it's almost black. Because I just have a ream of it that I bought, you know, years ago that I didn't use for anything, so I use it to you know, just mount cards these days for a little bit of a border. It looks almost like a black lacquer, you know, frame when you do it like that. So that's what that looks like right there. All right, what fun! I really enjoyed stamping with you all and chatting and, you know, coyote and fox and wombat talk here. Always a great time. And I really like this scene, so you guys inspired me with this scene right here. Send the winner your card. I think it's going to be a little bit of compilation right here of, you know, a few different these words here. I don't know, I'll figure it out. But that is the piece right here. And these large pieces like this too. I'm not formatting the cards. These days I'm using that spray adhesive to mount now. And I don't know, I didn't used to like using that because every time I do that during the daytime and there's a little bit of breeze, I get this spray sealant all over that. I can feel it on the hairs of my arm and stuff like that where it's going in the air. But when I spray, not spray seal, but I use a spray adhesive, is that what I said? That 3M Super 77. And I got like, I don't know, I must have double mounted up, I don't know, maybe like 100 and, I don't know, 150 cards just with that one can of spray adhesive. So this will be nice and flat on there. So those are the two things that I'll be doing: spray sealing and spray adhering on there. Yeah. Thanks for joining in, everyone. Misty Dancer, that's a good one too. Hello, Michelle. Thanks for joining in here. Good to see you. Everyone, anyone else that's on there, thanks so much. And I should make this into like a idea card. I haven't come up with any new idea cards in a while, but I should keep some of these. I've been sending out a lot of my originals lately with all the orders that come in. So thanks to everyone, that ordered stuff and whatnot. And yeah, look forward to seeing you if you have the that nature set number 30 stuff. I'm going to be using some of those coming up here, more of those ones. I want to use them with the Greco-Roman stuff. And I was thinking, man, it'd be cool to have these Greco-Roman columns like in the size of these trees like this too sometime. But I have a lot more imagery to use. And I haven't used these reclining ones like, I don't know where my piece went that I stamped out all these examples on, but I've used that one before, like, several times throughout the years, so I just haven't gotten around to using that one quite yet. But I don't know, I hadn't used that dancer. I don't have that stamp, but the stamps in my private collection, like I said, I've had this one before. It's kind of like a reclining. It's like this one's a sculpture. It's like a sculpture of like a marble sculpture. I think that's what that represents, or whatever. That's what the artist was going after. So. Probably that one on like a marble, I don't know, whatever, flanked by a couple marble columns or something like that. It doesn't have to be, but that would be pretty cool. So yeah. All right, everyone, thanks so much again. Happy Saturday, whatever time it is for you guys. Friday night here. It's a Saturday morning now. Anyone in the EST. I don't know if anyone's still on from, whatever, the Netherlands and whatnot. Australia's in the house. Yeah. Yeah, bigger Greco-Roman stamps. I think that'd be pretty cool. I hadn't thought about that, but I don't know. It's kind of like a little bit of an obscure line, but I don't know. Having them big would be kind of interesting. Yeah. Goddess of the Sunbeams. That sounds really good too. Huh. That one almost is, that title right there is kind of evocative. It's almost like I'd want to do a whole scene, based around that title there. Maybe I'll do that one right here. That marble one, like flanked by a couple columns, but at nighttime with like some beams. Well, it wouldn't be. It'd be Goddess of the Moonbeams then. Yeah. But that one might be kind of cool. Or just maybe Goddess of the Beams. Something like that might be kind of cool. All right. Great stuff, everyone. Thanks again for joining in. I haven't been on, in a while, but I've been itching to get back on the Do It live stream to have a good chat and stamp. What I think I need to do too sometime is to have to release some kind of thing. We'll have a little, stamp along or something like that on Zoom too, so we can do something like that, or just a kind of a stamp, whatever, stamp whatever you want, evening. you know, like a real chat or something like that where I can hear you too and see you. Some people said, hey, Kevin, if we did that, you know, would I have to turn on my camera? No, you don't have to turn on your camera if you don't want to. But we'd sure like to see what, you know, if you're stamping, you know, it'd be kind of cool to see what you're making there too. So we need to do that sometime in 2023 as well. So not just me stamping here. So some people say they stamp along with me here too, but you know, I want to see some stuff too, you know. Yeah, that'd be really cool. Yeah, Goddess of the Sunbeams. That one's pretty good. All right, everyone. Yeah, maybe we'll jump on again this weekend, you know, or something like that, and you know, see what we can come up with. We have a lot of new stuff to kind of play around with, so I'll take a break from you know, the new designs again sometime and try to jump back on. All right. Thanks, everyone. Hope to see you in the next live. No, you don't need to do your makeup and hair, you know. Just get ready, however way you do, you know, however way you stamp, you know, we're just going to be all in our own studios and stuff like that. So yeah, just stamping like we normally do. Just, you know, with, you know, a lot of other people watching us. That's all. All right, take care, everyone. Good night, good afternoon, good morning, whatever time it is for you. Thanks again for joining in.